Welcome back to my backyard and to the roaster. I'm excited today because I'm doing a little experiment. I actually have two batches of beans, both from the same farm in Nicaragua, but there's a difference in the way they were processed. I have here some naturally processed beans, and I have here some washed processed beans. So coffee beans come from, it looks like a red cherry on the plant, and there are a few different ways to dry it out to get it in the state that you see here. One of the most common ways is to dehusk the bean, pull them out of the red cherry, and then spread them out in the sun and let them dry that way after having washed them and cleaned them off. Another way to process them is a natural process. And the big difference is, rather than pull the bean out of the husk and washing it to sun dry it, you actually dry the entire cherry in the sun. And once it's dried out, then you dehusk and pull the beans out. And that's how you get a naturally processed coffee. So looking at these two, even though they came from the same farmers in Nicaragua, there are some differences. The naturally processed ones, the ones that were sun-dried in the husk, look a little smoother. They kind of have a chocolate chip smell. They look a little darker as well, whereas the ones that were dehusked and washed, which is usually what I roast, don't have as strong of a smell. There is still that earthy coffee bean smell that I'm used to, but it's not as strong. The naturally processed are a little more fragrant, maybe even a bit of a fermented smell. So I've never roasted a naturally processed coffee before, so I think it'll be fun to roast both of these back to back. I'm going to try to roast them the same way, hot and fast, and then I'm going to try them and see if there really is a difference in flavor between the two processing styles. I'm excited. Let's load them up. So I'm roasting the washed beans first, just because it's what I'm used to. I did let the roaster preheat for longer than normal this time because I want as much to be even as possible between two roasts. And sometimes it does make a difference. If the roaster's been hot for a long time, it'll roast the next batch faster. Everything is just hotter when it's been working longer. So I gave it that longer time in hopes that everything will be nice and hot for both these batches. It'll be hard to roast them the exact same way, but I'm going to try and keep the same settings and see if I can do it. Where the fire's off and we're waiting for the beans to hit turning point and start warming back up. And that just happened at the minute mark, which is good timing. So we'll turn our fire back on. I'm going to run my air at 2.5, and I'm going to run my fire right at 2. My strategy is hot and fast. If there are fruity flavors in these beans, I want to hold on to them, especially where we're doing a naturally processed bean. I want to taste as much of the beans themselves as possible. So I'm going to go really easy on the roasting process, which means these may not be as toasty and as smoky as normal. They'll probably be on that fruitier end. And I like this for at least that first roast so that I can taste what the bean tastes like, what makes it unique. And then if I want it to be darker, I could always roast darker the next time. So in the spirit of learning, we're going to keep everything nice and light, and hopefully we can taste some differences between these two beans when all is said and done. So we're at 2 minutes and 30 seconds, and the bean temp has just hit 240 degrees. So that's a moderate climb. Another thing about this is it's a much smaller batch than what I normally roast, which hopefully means it'll cook faster. So ideally, if we can get these beans roasted between 8 and 10 minutes, I think we'll be in the right spot. I've never actually roasted beans from Nicaragua, and between coffee bean varieties, there are some differences in how they cook. So it could be that these beans are really resilient and don't take on the heat and may just be a slower cook. I don't know. I'm hoping we can get through them fast and not boil off those fruity flavors. I took some time this week to drive up into the mountains. Fall is upon us. And I took a chance to go around and look at the leaves, the animals, get to put on my jacket outside, which I'm always surprised when that happens, that first chance you get to step outside and wear a jacket, but I'm always excited. I love to put on my long sleeves. I always find myself in awe of just how beautiful the autumn colors are. I don't know about you, but I can't get enough of this pavilion. All right, so we're at 6 minutes and 325 degrees on the first batch, the washed beans. They smell great. Oh, they're fragrant now. Even a hint of fruit still in there. So again, these are the washed beans. These are what I normally roast, which means they've been pulled from the plant. The husk has been opened. The white raw beans pulled out, washed, and then dried in the sun, and then shipped here to me. And it smells amazing. These are going to be good. So we're at 355 degrees, and we're at the 8-minute mark. And so approaching 360, we're dangerously close to that first crack. I really would have liked first crack to have happened right now. So if I were roasting this again, I probably would have given it just a little more fire. But because I've got to replicate this roasting process, I've got to do it exactly the same way on the next batch. 370, and we're at 9 minutes, 15 seconds. I'm actually really surprised that we haven't heard first crack yet. Let's give them a smell. Oh, that was a pop. 379, so a little later than normal. So normally I would pull these at 385, but I'm going to watch these and see what happens. I'm going to crank up this air at 383 and see if I can ease them. That's definitely in first crack now. 386. Let's go just a little more. 388. 389. Come on, 389. Let's pull them. 390. I'm try and cool these down as fast as possible. Nice and cool. So this first batch we pulled at 10 minutes and we roasted it to 390 degrees. All right, the roaster is warmed up and ready to go. So we're gonna roast the naturally processed beans now. Wow. All right, so same thing, I'm soaking batch 2, just like the last batch, trying to keep everything the same. Turn my gas to 2, my air to 2.5, same settings as last time. For those curious, I do use Kingsford lighters. They work well. This video isn't sponsored by Kingsford. It'd be cool if it were. I'm really nervous about my settings, so I keep double checking to make sure I did everything the same way. Our goal is to imitate what we did with the natural, which means we should be pulling these beans around the 10-minute mark at 390 degrees. But I have no idea what I'm really in for. It could be that the processing affects how they roast. The beans themselves looked a lot different. The natural processed ones, like I say, were darker, they were smoother, they were shinier, they were more fragrant. So it could be that, I don't know, maybe they have an exterior that's harder to penetrate with heat and they'll take longer to roast. I really have no idea. And what an exciting thing that is. The sun is setting and I'm starting to feel, I just felt a cool breeze wash over me in the roaster. That change in ambient temperature, that could make a difference, I don't know. Just gonna watch things closely. You see they've turned that delicious dark peanut butter. Ooh, and I could eat them like cereal and milk right now. But I'm not gonna, because that would burn my tongue. Let's give them a smell. Oh, we got beans jumping out. Oh my gosh. These smell like semi-sweet chocolate chips. All along the way. With a hint of Butterfinger. Oh my gosh. Just looking at these, on the washed beans, you can see the chaff. And part of it's still intact with that white line. Part of it's still intact with that little white line down the middle of the bean. These don't have that. There's no white line. They're just a solid color. They're very smooth and they don't look to be swelling up the way the washed beans do. So far, visually there's a big difference. Smell, there's a big difference. All right, we just hit 360 degrees, which is a big milestone. And we're at the 7-minute, 45-minute mark. So the cook is pacing about the same as the last one did. which is great. This is great because I didn't want there to be these big differences between the cooks and then be left asking, oh, do these taste different because I cooked them different? They also may taste exactly the same, I don't know. Okay, we're at the 8-minute mark and we just hit 370. So first crack came a little later on the washed batch, but we should hear first crack any second now. And if we hear first crack in the 8-minute window, we're definitely faster than the last batch was. Okay, 377, no first crack. Oh. I'm always surprised. I'm always worried that first crack isn't going to come, and it does. Okay. So we're at 383. That's where I put air on the last time. Going to crank the air. That first crack has not been as violent as the first crack on the washed beans. 390. I'm pulling them. 391. Just like with the first batch, we're going to try and cool them off as quick as we can. All right, they're cool. So I gotta say, visually, there are some huge differences between these two beans. Same plant, same farm, same farmers, but the process for drying them was different. The naturally processed beans, which means the beans that were dried still in their husk, there's no real white line down the middle. The chaff isn't as apparent on these, whereas the beans that were washed, which means when they were harvested, they were pulled from the husk, they were washed and then laid out in the sun to dry. They look more familiar. My light roasts usually look like this. You'll see some chaff down the middle, that white line. The ones that were left in their husk and naturally processed, they're beautiful. They're dark all around. They're an even color. I'm hoping they're not a grinder buster. I hope they're dark enough that my grinder will still grind them. I'm so excited. I can't believe how different these are, even though they're the same bean. They came from the same dirt and the same hands. I'm blown away at how different the processing is. It's hard to really smell any differences. I'm sure once we grind them, we'll be able to. So, oh my gosh, I'm so excited. So I'm going to let these rest. I'm going to turn in and wrap up some things before I have to go to bed. And then in the morning, we'll try these together. Good morning. Well, almost lunchtime. I got out a little later than I wanted to test these because I'm going on a hike today. I'm going to go to the Mount Timpanogos cave. which is that direction, and I'm really excited about it. But before I left, I wanted to make sure I went ahead and tried these, so I just have to make sure I remember which bean is which. The blue cup is the washed, and the orange cup is the naturally processed bean. So I made a pour over. They both smelt delicious when I ground them, so I'm not really sure what to expect here, but I'm excited. So we'll go in for that first sip. I'm going to try the washed one because that's what I'm more familiar with. Mm. Mm-hmm. Definitely has that just roasted taste. Could probably use another 48 hours to settle in, but it's enough time for me to know what's going on here. Some very light fruitiness, and it's what I'd expect from a Central American bean. Little hints of grapefruit. It might be a bit sour, which I could blame on the roast. I think if I were to roast these again, I would turn my temperature a little hotter and get more air on them towards the end of the roast than I did. But still a delicious bean. Oh my gosh, I could drink it black. It's like an iced tea almost. Very floral, very good. Okay. Now, the naturally processed. This is the bean that was sun-dried in the husk. Smelt a little more fermented last night as a raw bean. We'll see if that flavor came all the way through. Smell is similar to the washed. There is something else going on though. Let's go for that sip. Oh, sure. Oh, my goodness. Okay. This, I don't know that I want to say elevated, but certainly more complex is the word for this. Wow. This is fruity. I mean, without question. I mean, this is spot on fruity. This is like Frodo just threw the ring into the fires of Mount Doom fruity. The journey is over. Head back home. Oh, wow. This is pretty good. My temptation is to chug this because I really got to go, but oh, wow. This is, whew. Wow. So, I mean, that's it. It's fruity. I don't even know that these taste like the same bean. There is, I mean, orange peel, cherry, certainly chocolate is in there. This is complex. Grapes, I don't know. It's really good. Wow. Oh my gosh. Okay, I gotta go. Okay, one more sip. I'm really glad I did this. I've always wanted to try an unwashed bean processed in the husk, and I was really lucky to be able to get the same bean from the same place, just processed the two different ways. And I gotta say, I think unwashed are usually more expensive, but when it comes to a light roast, this is definitely meant to be enjoyed, probably without a lot of cream, unless you want to. I think you can do whatever you want, but this is so good, so delicious, and I'm really glad I did it. There's nothing else to say. It's hard to really taste the differences between these two until you do it for yourself, so I'm really glad we did. And I am loving this fall weather. Those red leaves They're creeping down the mountain. They haven't quite made it to the backyard yet, but I'm excited to go spend some more time in them today. It's amazing how fast September, October, November blow right by, and I'm trying to spend as much time in it as I can. Mm. Mm. Mm.